what I want you to ask yourself is, are you happy with how you spend your time? Because you only have so much of it. And how you spend your time should be something that lights you up, makes you feel joyful, makes you feel happy, makes you feel peaceful, and makes you feel like you're contributing, you're doing something good, you're having some level of impact. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Life by Your Design podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Boyd. I'm a master hypnotist, human design reader, and I'm here to help you play with convention, tap into your purpose, and live life by your design. Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Life by Your Design podcast. I'm thrilled that you're here with me today. And if you are one of my listeners that just shows up week after week, I love having you here. Thank you for being so supportive. And if you're new to the podcast and you're just starting to dip your toe into Life by Your Design, then I'm hoping that today will be a very useful episode. But either way, if you're not yet following me on Spotify or Apple Music or Google Podcasts or whatever is the preferred platform, go ahead and follow and like, just so that you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. And on that note as well, I'm really keen to get your feedback, because this podcast was absolutely supposed to be a resource for people who are at a stage of their life where they either want to change their career, find more purpose, explore their human design, essentially looking for that next phase of their life. So if there's stuff in the podcast that you love and you want to see more of, let me know. If there's stuff that you're not finding useful, that's useful for me to know. And also, if there's stuff that I'm not covering that you're sat there going, this would be really useful, let me know. And the best way for you to do that is really for you to jump on Instagram, and you can either go to Michelle Boyd _hypnotist or the Life by Your Design podcast and just send me a message, and I would love to hear from you. But without further ado, let's jump into today's topic. And today I want to talk about time. Yep, time. So time is one of the big resources that we actually have in our pockets. And on top of that, time is one of those areas of the human experience that is heavily conditioned by society. It's a place where we have an awful lot of programming around our relationship to time. One of those other areas is money, heavily conditioned. I mean, so many people, in fact, everybody carries an awful lot of stuff around money. Even the people who are incredibly rich still have money stuff. It's just one of the most heavily conditioned part of the human experience. I mean, maybe not if you live in a tribe somewhere in the rainforest and you never interact with capitalism, but for everybody else, money is heavily conditioned. And time is the other place where we are heavily conditioned. And it's super interesting to look at the areas where we're really conditioned. We've got lots and lots of programming, because when we start to explore that and we start to shift our relationship to it, it's one of the ways we can really change our experience in this lifetime. So time. Why is time so important? Well, at the end of the day, we really do have a pretty definitive amount of time. Unlike money, where you can, with money, always create more money. You could always create more money. It's infinite. Time is not infinite. It's actually definite. There is a certain amount of time. And if you're sat there going, that's not true, there isn't infinite money, I never have enough money, then that's your beliefs that actually need to be looked at. And beliefs, remember, are not reality. So if you shift your beliefs, you can shift what you experience and you can have a different reality. But let's come back to time. So when we look at time, the thing with it is that there is only a certain amount of it, okay? So whether you look at it in terms of how many hours there are in a day or days there are in a week, and even if you look at it in terms of the length of your life, to some degree, there is a certain amount of time. And you can certainly perhaps extend the time that you have in this lifetime by eating well, exercising well, etc. But at the end of the day, there's only so much of it. Now, your relationship to time can change, and we all experience time differently. And somebody, for example, who is always late, their relationship to time is different to somebody who is on time or who's early for things. And even in our day-to-day lives, our experience of time can change. We've all heard the phrase, time flies when you're having fun, but it's not quite as simple as saying if you're having fun, time moves quickly. And if you're doing something that you don't like, time moves slowly. And I have an example of this even from the other week. I'd had a busy week and I felt that I just needed to have a little bit of a break. So I took myself off to one of the beautiful waterfalls here in the Northern Rivers in New South Wales. And I drove out to one of the villages and I got a sausage roll. And then I drove to the waterfall and then I played in the waterfall for maybe 4 or 5 hours. And I was absolutely in the present moment. I was playing. I was absolutely in a very sort of childlike state. And I felt like this went on forever. I felt like I was out there for days. And I remember when I did look at my phone to check the time, I was like, oh, it's only 3:00. Whereas earlier that week, when I had been beavering away on my computer with really quite a big to-do list, I felt like I just didn't have enough time and I'd blink and it would be like, oh my gosh, it's already 3:00 and I don't even know where the day has gone. So we all experience time at different times. You know what it's like if you have been sat on a really uncomfortable chair or you're physically uncomfortable, maybe you're cold or you're hungry or you need to use the toilet. It feels like time moves really slowly. And yet there are other times when it just seems to fly past. So we can change our relationship to time and we can change how it feels to experience that time, whether it feels like it's moving fast or it's moving slowly or we feel like we have a lot of it or not. But that's all just our relationship to it in the moment. And at the end of the day, there is only really a certain amount of time. So there are 24 hours in a day. How you relate to those 24 hours is up to you, but there is at the end of the day, 24 hours. And as I said, there's a lot of conditioning around time because you've only got to look at so many of the things that people say. You will ask somebody, how are you going? What's been going on? Or how are you doing? And I don't know what it is statistically, but how many people turn around to you and say, oh, I've been really busy or I'm really busy. And I'm absolutely guilty of doing this as well. And really what we're saying when I'm busy is that all my time is being taken up by things. Often you'll ask somebody if they want to do something or if they can do something. And the response so very often is, I don't have time. So there's always this perception around time. People are often trying to save time. Whereas, of course, you can't save time or create time. There is only time, but there's just your relationship to that time. Whereas you can save money and you can create money, just as another reference point. So there is this definitive amount of time. And the bit that I want to say next is not meant to make you feel shit as you listen to this podcast, but it is potentially meant to be a little bit of a wake-up call, if nothing else. So we have a certain amount of time on this planet, right? Let's assume that we have 80 years on this planet. And we know some people don't have that long, and we know some people have more, but you can just assume that maybe you have 80. If you subtract how old you are right now from that, and you multiply it by 365, that is how many days you have left of life. And it's not an awful lot. So when this podcast comes out, I think it's a couple of weeks before my 40th birthday, right? I'm almost 40. And so if we take the 80 years, I'm halfway through my life. And if you think of things that you only get to experience once a year, there's only 40 more summers, 40 more winters, 40 more Christmases. And you start to think about, well, if I only get out in the surf so many days each summer and I only surf the summers, how many more surfs are left? And of course, you can do this about anything. And the point of this is just to remind you that there is only so much time. And the reason I'm saying this is because what I want you to ask yourself is, are you happy with how you spend your time? Are you content? Are you at peace? Does how you spend your time feel really good to you? Because you only have so much of it. And how you spend your time should be something that lights you up, makes you feel joyful, makes you feel happy, makes you feel peaceful, and makes you feel like you're contributing, you're doing something good, you're having some level of impact. Because that is how we should be spending our time. And I dislike using the word should. But this is one of those times when I do want to use it, because that's your experience here is to experience joy, is to experience happiness and enjoyment, and to feel like you're having some form of impact. And with that last point, what I want to add is that can be perceived big or small. Because if the way that you want to spend your time is being at home and cooking beautiful food for your children, that is just as important and just as valid as somebody who might be spending their time out reinventing clean energy. We love as humans to rank and rate different things, but everything that we do has ripples. It has ripples out into the people closest to us, into our communities, and into this planet. And so if you're doing good, it's creating ripples, whether you feel like you're throwing a tiny, tiny stone into the water, or if you feel like you're dropping a massive rock. All of those ripples are valid. But the question is, are you spending time how you want to be? And the reason I'm asking this is the fundamental starting point for life by your design. So when I talk about life by your design, yes, it's a little bit of a play on words on living your human design. And of course, your human design has so many amazing cues to how you could be living your life and feeling happier and better and all of those things. But it's ultimately about designing a life you love. And if your answer to the question of, am I happy with how I'm spending my time is yes, then wonderful. Then you have got this sorted and you probably don't need to listen to any more of these podcasts. But if your answer to that is no, if it isn't a full-bodied, I am absolutely on board with how I spend all of my time, then actually what you need is to redesign your life. You need to look at how you spend your time day to day. Because as a society, we hang a lot off of milestones. We hang a lot off of achievements. But that isn't what life's about. Life is in living, and the living is in the moments. And it's how you spend your time moment to moment, which actually dictates how happy and how fulfilled you feel. So it doesn't really matter that you got married. It's really to do with how you show up in that marriage and what that marriage is like day to day. It doesn't really matter if you got a promotion. It's what's the job like and what do you experience doing that job every day? These are the things that matter. Am I spending my time in a way that makes me feel healthy and strong and is good for my mental health so that I can continue to impact and support other people around me? The question is really, how do you spend your time? And if we were to sort of distill down one of really my biggest messages that I share with my clients, with my community, that I want to share with you here on the podcast, it's that there are other ways that you can spend your time to experience more freedom, more impact, and more vitality. So if you're not 100% on board in how you spend your time, then you can absolutely redesign it. And that's really what Life by Your Design is all about. It's the absolutely core tenet of it. And there will be so many beliefs that you have around how you are supposed to spend your time and need to spend your time and should be spending your time. But the reality is, when you start to break down those beliefs around time, you're able to construct a new relationship to how you spend your time and then redesign that time so that it feels as if there's more time for the things that you love and you enjoy. So that perhaps you can deconstruct how time and income work together. And so that you can really feel that the time you spend is doing some good in the world. And there's many reasons that people get to a place where they want a bit more purpose, a bit more meaning. But it's often that point when we reflect back and we realize that the way that we're spending our time is not really doing that much good in the world. I looked at my old job and I was like, I spend a lot of time writing PowerPoint presentations and presenting them. I write a lot of strategy that doesn't actually get properly implemented. I have a lot of, yes, stimulating conversations with senior people who don't do anything with it. Am I having any real impact? No. Do I want to sit in front of a laptop? No. Do I want to stare at the computer? Do I want to be in an office? No. Do I want to be sat on my bum all day? No. And when you think about COVID, what happened during COVID was that people felt like they got some time back because that commute disappeared. And of course, everyone's commutes were different. But for most people were saving anywhere to kind of an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours a day. And so people were able to choose what they did with that time. And for some people, they simply extended their workday and spent more time sitting in front of their laptop. But other people managed to squeeze in a Pilates class or a yoga class or a surf, or they were able to spend that time dropping their kids at school or going for a walk with their kids before school or whatever it was for you. And so it's really interesting with time because that's why people have been so resistant to going back in the office is because they got this bit of time back. What if you could feel like you could reclaim all of your time? Because you really can change how you spend your time. So if you are not happy with the way that your days and your weeks play out, with all the things that you seem to spend your energy and time on, then it's time to have a really, really good look at that. And the starting point is we actually have to go within. We do really have to get below all of that surface conditioning and programming, get back to who we are, connect to who we are, what we really want, what brings us alive, what's in us that we want to bring through into the world. And I believe strongly that everybody has beautiful gifts and qualities to bring through to the world. It's just that society tells us some of those things are more valid than others. But once you've really got into that place and connected to yourself, then you can start to work around all the beliefs that are stopping you from making those changes. And then you can start to really design a life that you love and do the practical stuff to make it happen. Because I really do believe that wherever you're sitting now, even if what you think you want feels so far away, you absolutely can change it because you can change anything. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're doing in the purpose pathway is we're allowing you to go super, super deep into who you are, really get to know who you are and what you want, work through the beliefs and the stuff that's holding you back, and then get into the practical stuff to change what you need, whether that is changing what you do for work, changing how you spend your time, restructuring stuff. We do all of that kind of stuff as well. And you're in a community of people who are embarking on the same journey. So this is where I leave you today. I really just want you to answer these 2 questions. Am I happy with how I spend my time? And if the answer is not a 100% full-bodied yes, then ask yourself, how do I want to spend my time? And that is the starting point of conscious lifestyle design. It's the starting point of living life by your design. And don't forget, if you don't know your human design yet, you can still grab that off of my website. It's completely free. Just go to michelleboyd.com/human design chart. Get your chart so you can actually bring that dimension into your lifestyle design process as well. Anyway, I wish you a fantastic day. If you've got any questions, any feedback, you know where to find me, and I will see you next week